Hope is not a strategy, but action forms one. You know, that quote always gets me thinking, and it kind of fits in with what we're diving into today.
Okay.
Co-opetition.
Interesting.
So it's basically how businesses can, well, stop just hoping for the best, right?
Right.
And actually, like, take action by blending, get this, competition, AD collaboration.
It's fascinating. It really challenges that old way of thinking. It's either this or that.
Right, right.
For so long, businesses have been stuck in this idea that, you got to choose. You're either like cutthroat competitors,
Yeah.
right? Or you're all friendly and collaborative.
It's like those old Westerns.
Exactly.
You're either the sheriff or the outlaw.
Exactly. But co-opetition, it just throws that whole rule book out the window.
Yeah.
It says, hey, maybe there's a better way to play this game.
A smarter way.
A smarter way.
Yeah.
And that's where the fusion framework comes in.
Okay.
It helps us map all of this out.
So the fusion framework, what is it and why should people care?
Well, it's basically a way of, categorizing different business strategies based on how much competition and collaboration they involve.
I see.
Like, imagine a graph, okay?
Okay.
One axis is competition level, the other is collaboration level.
Okay, got it.
And you see some businesses are low on both, and that's a recipe for disaster, stagnation.
And they're not going anywhere fast.
Exactly. Others, they might be high on one but low on the other, so maybe they're stable, sure.
Yeah.
But they're not really innovating, or you get those who are like super competitive.
Right.
But they completely miss out on the whole teamwork thing.
So you're saying that being a lone wolf, might win a few battles here and there, but it's not going to win the war.
Exactly. The real sweet spot, the holy grail of the fusion framework, it's the unstoppable innovator.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. That's where high levels of both competition and collaboration meet.
No, that's the title you want on your business card.
Yeah.
The unstoppable innovator. But how did this whole co-opetition thing even come about? Was it like one day some CEO just had a light bulb moment?
Well, not exactly. It actually goes back to 1996.
Oh, wow.
These two Ivy League professors, Brandenburger and Nalebuff,
Cool.
they coined the term. And they argued that companies, they can be rivals and partners, sometimes even at the same time.
So it's kind of like the frenemy concept.
Exactly.
But in the business world.
The corporate world, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
So what's an example of this playing out in real life?
Well, look at the tech industry.
Okay.
Think about giants like Microsoft and Apple.
Okay.
They're constantly battling it out for market dominance, right?
Right.
But they also collaborate. They've developed software for each other's platforms, for example.
Wow, it's like they're playing 4D chess.
It is.
It seems counterintuitive, but it's clearly working for them.
It is.
But how can we make this relatable for our listener? Can we bring co-opetition a little closer to home?
Sure, yeah. Consider the parent-child dynamic. It's a perfect microcosm of co-opetition. On one hand, parents are, naturally supportive. They want their children to thrive.
Right.
But there's also this element of competition, isn't there?
Oh, now that you mention it, I remember my dad always jokingly challenging me to beat his high score in video games,
Exactly.
Healthy competition, I guess.
Exactly. And parents, they often want their kids to excel, maybe even surpass their own achievements. And then, on the other side, children, they're driven to assert their independence.
So even in a loving family, you have this push and pull.
Right.
Wanting the best for your kid, but also, let's be honest, wanting them to maybe do a little better than you did at that age.
Exactly. And it's this dynamic, this interplay that pushes both the parent and child to grow. Parents, they teach those life skills, they provide support, and then kids, through their own drive, they can inspire their parents to keep learning and adapting too. It's all about balance.
It's a fascinating dynamic.
Yeah, and it really shows you, co-opetition isn't about crushing the other side. It's about this kind of dynamic that pushes everybody forward.
Right. Progress, yeah. So let's talk about, I guess, why companies should even care. Like, what's in it for them? Why co-opetition? What are the benefits?
Well, imagine a company, right, they're stuck in their ways, afraid to, actually work with others, collaborate. They're probably missing out on a lot of innovation. That spark you get from bringing different ideas together, different perspectives.
Right.
Co-opetition, it forces you to up your game.
You can't get complacent.
Exactly. But it also makes you open your mind. It's like, that saying, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, it's more like company sharpens company.
I like that. So that's one benefit, this constant improvement, right?
Right, yeah. But it also leads to, expanded opportunities.
Okay, how so?
When companies actually join forces strategically, they can get into new markets, build partnerships they never could before, and they can like pool their resources, tap into things they just wouldn't have access to on their own.
So instead of fighting over like a tiny slice of the pie, they're
Exactly.
making a whole new pie.
Exactly. Everyone gets a bigger piece.
I like that analogy.
Mm.
Okay, so we've got continuous improvement, we've got expanded opportunities. What else?
Well, there's also the whole shared risk and reward thing.
Right.
Think about like joint ventures. Instead of one company, taking on all the burden, all the risk themselves,
Right.
they can spread it out.
Makes sense.
But they also share in the potential profits. So win-win, right?
Yeah, it's like a safety net and a rocket booster all in one.
Exactly.
They can like take these bigger steps knowing they've got support, but then they can reach like new heights together.
Exactly. Exactly. And then finally, there's adaptation and evolution.
Okay.
In today's world, everything's changing so fast, right? Businesses, they got to be nimble.
They have to adapt.
Right. And that's what co-opetition encourages. It's
Oh.
this back and forth between, competing and collaborating. It pushes companies to stay ahead.
Okay, so I'm convinced. Co-opetition sounds pretty amazing,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing it's not all sunshine and roses.
Okay. Like any strategy, you got to be smart about it. Co-opetition has its challenges.
Okay, like what?
Well, one big one is knowledge sharing.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
When you're working with a competitor, you got to be careful about what information you're giving them.
It's like that saying, right? Loose lips sink ships.
Exactly.
You want to be open, collaborate, all that.
Right.
But you also need to protect your own company's secrets. It's a tough balance.
It is, yeah. And then there's the whole ambiguity and roles thing.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when does collaboration end? And when does competition begin? It can get kind of blurry, especially in those joint ventures. Clear communication is key there. You got to set boundaries, make sure everybody's on the same page.
It's like setting ground rules before a game, right?
Exactly. Everybody knows what's allowed, what's not allowed. Keeps things fair.
Okay, what else?
And then there's the risk of exploitation. One company might try to, take advantage, take more from the collaboration than they're actually putting in.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So both sides got to be mindful. Keep things balanced, hold each other accountable.
It's about trust, right? Mutual respect.
Exactly. And then finally, there's managing conflicting objectives.
How so?
Well, competition, it's often about those short-term wins, quick results. But collaboration, that's about the long game.
Long-term growth, yeah.
Exactly. So balancing those two, it takes, a willingness to negotiate, to find solutions that benefit both sides ultimately.
So it's not just about, like, signing a contract and hoping for the best.
No, not at all.
It's about actually working at the relationship, communicating, adapting as you go.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to that fusion framework and that, highly sought after unstoppable innovator model.
Right.
Remember, that's that sweet spot. High competition, high collaboration. That's where companies can really reach their full potential.
So the unstoppable innovator model, it's like the gold medal of business strategy.
You could say that. It's about embracing that challenge, that push and pull, constantly pushing each other to be better, but also working together, creating something new, something groundbreaking.
Are there any real-world examples of companies that have actually, reached this unstoppable innovator status?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
Look at Apple and Samsung.
Okay.
Fierce rivals in the smartphone market.
Right.
But they also depend on each other. Apple uses Samsung displays in their phones.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And Samsung benefits, of course, from that massive demand that Apple products generate. It's this fascinating dynamic.
It's like two master chess players, right?
Yeah.
Battling it out. But at the same time, they're making the game more exciting for everyone watching.
Exactly. They both understand ultimately that their rivalry benefits both of them.
It pushes them forward.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to that quote we started with. Hope is not a strategy, but action forms one.
Yeah.
Co-opetition, it's about putting that hope into action, embracing both sides, competition and collaboration. And, speaking of success, I think it's fitting to end with a quote from a true visionary, Steve Jobs. He said, "Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people."
It's so true. Even in a world that's all about individual achievement, we often forget the power of collaboration. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
It really makes you think about, how important teamwork is even when you're competing.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for our listener? How can they use this whole co-opetition idea in their own lives?
Well, it starts with changing our mindset.
Yeah.
We got to move away from that us versus them kind of thinking.
Right.
Instead of always seeing others as just competitors.
We can start to look for those chances to collaborate.
So it's more about like an us and them approach.
Exactly. And this goes way beyond just business, Think about your own goals, personal stuff,
Right.
or even like those tricky relationships we all have.
Oh, yeah.
Could you use a little co-opetition there?
I see what you're saying. So it could be as simple as like working with a colleague on a project.
Right.
Even if you're both, hoping to get that same promotion.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's about finding some common ground with someone you usually disagree with
Right.
to get something done that you both care about.
Exactly. Even those small steps, using a little co-opetition can really make a difference.
Yeah, I love that.
It's about pushing each other, sure, but also supporting each other to be better.
So for our listener out there, here's something to think about. What in your life, could use a little more of that co-opetition spirit? Experiment with it. See what happens. Who knows? Maybe that's the key to unlocking a whole new level of success, and just feeling more fulfilled.
Yeah, it's about realizing that sometimes working together, that's the best way to win.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Thanks for joining us.